What's up everybody, Nico Dwyer back for the 10th inning, giving you another episode of This Day in Sports History. In yesterday's episode, we saw the Chicago Blackhawks win their first Stanley Cup in 2010 since 1961. We don't have the Blackhawks winning the Stanley Cup today, but we do have some Stanley Cup winners to get into today, as well as some other things. So if you all enjoy this video and you want to see more of it, hit that like button. If you all like what you see and you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. This Day in Sports History. We start out today in 1904 at the British Open, and Jack White wins his only major career title, one stroke ahead of James Wade and J.H. Taylor, both former champions. Then we move to Major League Baseball in 1921, and Babe Ruth becomes the all-time home run king, hitting his 120th home run. This home run had Ruth pass Gabby Cravath for first place all-time. As we all know, Ruth would go on, hit a little bit more in his career, end up with 714, right now good for third place all-time, or second, depending on how you look at the whole steroid thing with Bonds. Then we move back to the British Open in 1932, and Gene Sarazen, with a score of 5 under, wins by 5 strokes ahead of second place McDonald Smith. 1 year later in 1933, we move to the US Open now, and Johnny Goodman won by a single stroke over Ralph Goodall via a playoff hole to win his only major championship of his career. Now we move to the FIFA World Cup in 1934. This would be the second edition of the FIFA World Cup, and Italy ended up defeating Czechoslovakia to win their first World Cup with a score of 2-1. For Czechoslovakia, Antonin Puig started the scoring off in the 71st minute. Italy countered right back with Raimundo Orsi scoring in the 83rd minute. Then it went to extra time, and Angelo Schiavo scored in the 95th minute for Italy, giving them their first FIFA World Cup. 10 years later in 1944 in Major League Baseball, we have the youngest pitcher ever to make a debut in the major leagues. At 15 years, 316 days, about 6 weeks off of his 16th birthday, pitcher Joe Nuttall debuts for the Cincinnati Reds. He got his debut off to a good start, then it went downhill very quickly. Got the first out of the inning, then proceeded to give up 5 walks, 2 hits, along with 1 wild pitch, all while giving up 5 runs in the inning. Now we move to the LPGA Championship in 1957, and Louise Suggs, with a score of 5 over, wins her 10th major title, 3 strokes ahead of runner-up Whiffy Smith. 2 years later in 1959, we move right back to Major League Baseball, and Rocky Colavito becomes the 6th player to hit 4 home runs in a game. This came in the Indians' 11-8 victory over the Orioles, and Colavito became the 2nd player since Lou Gehrig to hit all 4 straight. For Colavito, the game started off with a walk for him in the 1st inning. Then he hit home runs in the 3rd inning, 5th inning, 6th inning, and 9th inning. Now we move up to 1962, and we have a world record. Igor Terovanesayan set the long jump record at 27 feet and 3.5 inches, or 8.31 meters. He would hold this record for 2 years until Ralph Boston broke it by 1 inch. Now we go back to Major League Baseball in 1966, and we have a no-hitter alert. Sonny Siebert threw a no-hitter for the Indians in their 2-0 victory over the Senators. Siebert, 9 innings on the day, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk. The team had 1 error in the 8th inning. There was a walk before that though, so it's not like that is what ruined a perfect game. Now we go to 1967, and we have another world record. This time in the pole vault. Bob Seagren set a world record of 17 feet, 7 inches, or 5.36 meters. This would be broken less than 2 weeks later, but a world record is a world record nonetheless. 1 year later in 1968, at the 4th Rugby League World Cup, Australia defeated France 20-2. There were only 4 teams in this World Cup, that's why it might seem a little lopsided, but Australia defeated France 20-2. This would be the 2nd championship for Australia out of 11 total championships in the Rugby League World Cup. At the same time that was happening, we had the UEFA European Championship final. Italy was going up against Yugoslavia, and Italy defeated Yugoslavia 2-0 in a replay. The first game was tied 1-1. Kind of like the Rugby World Cup, there were only 4 teams in these playoffs. And in the replay game for Italy, Luigi Riva scored in the 12th minute, and then Pietro Anastasi scored in the 31st minute, adding another goal for Italy, giving them the 2-0 lead, giving them the 2-0 victory. In 1972, Major League Baseball, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays were neck and neck for second place all-time with home runs. Hank Aaron officially moved ahead of Willie Mays as the number 2 home run hitter with 649 after a grand slam off Wayne Twitchell in the top of the 6th inning. This would be the last time Aaron would be tied with Willie Mays. Aaron, less than 2 years later, would go on to pass Babe Ruth and be the number 1 home run king of all time. Right now, Hank Aaron is currently number 2. Again, or number 1, depending on how you look at the whole thing. But in 1972, he had his 649th, passing Willie Mays. 1 year later at the 1973 LPGA Championship, Mary Mills, with a score of 4 under, won by 1 stroke ahead of runner-up Betty Bernfeint. This would be the final of Mills' 3 majors in her career. 5 years later at the 1978 French Open, on the women's side, Virginia Rusici claimed her only major singles title, defeating Mima Josovec 6-2, 6-2 in straight sets. 1 year later at 1979, we stick with the French Open on the women's side. Chris Evert defeated Wendy Turnbull 6-2, 6-0 straight sets for her 3rd French singles title and her 9th of 18 single titles. Also in 1979 at the LPGA Championship, Donna Caponi-Young, with a score of 9 under, won her 3rd major, 3 strokes ahead of Jalen Britz. Now we go to 1981 in Major League Baseball. Pete Rose would end up tying Stan Musial with 3,630 hits in his career. Rose came into the game 1 hit shy of the mark. He would hit a single off of Nolan Ryan in the 1st inning, and then he would have to wait about 2 months until he could break the record. After that game, the players would end up going on strike, and they wouldn't play again until August. So Pete Rose would have to wait to break Stan Musial, but he didn't have to wait to tie Stan Musial. Now we go to the NBA Finals in 1984, which saw the Boston Celtics going up against the Los Angeles Lakers. The Celtics ended up winning this series 4-3, and in Game 7 with a 111-102 victory. For the series, Larry Bird averaged 27 points and 14 rebounds, while Dennis Johnson and Robert Parrish both averaged 15 plus for the Celtics. For the Lakers, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar averaged 26.6, James Worthy 22, Magic Johnson 18 points, 13.6 assists. In Game 7 though, Cedric Maxwell, Larry Bird, and Dennis Johnson all had 20 plus points in the game, giving the Celtics the victory, giving them their 15th of 17 championships. The same day the finals happened, another world record was set, this time for the men's high jump. Zhu Zhenhua set a world record at 7 feet 10 inches or 2.39 meters. This would be broken less than a year later. Then finally in 1984, we had the French Open men's final. Ivan Lendl won his first career Grand Slam title of 3 French and 8 major victories, defeating John McEnroe 3-6, 2-6, 6-4, 7-5, 7-5 in 5 sets. 2 years later, the 1989 French Open women's final, Arantxa Sanchez Vicario won her first Grand Slam singles title of 3 French titles and 4 overall, defeating Steffi Graf 7-6, 3-6, 7-5. A year later at the French Open in 1990, now we go to the men's side. Andres Gomez wins his first and only career Grand Slam title, defeating Andre Agassi 6-3, 2-6, 6-4, 6-4 in 4 sets. Also in 1990 at the Senior Tournament Players Championship, Jack Nicklaus, with a record score of 27 under, would win 6 strokes ahead of Lee Trevino, giving him the regular Players Championship and now the Senior Players Championship. Now we move up to the 1995 French Open final on the women's side, and it's the exact opposite of the 89 final. This time, Steffi Graf defeated Arantxa Sanchez Vicario 7-5, 4-6, 6-0. This would be Graf's 4th of 6 French titles and her 16th of 22 overall majors on the singles side. 1 year later at the Stanley Cup final in 1996, the Colorado Avalanche defeated the Florida Panthers 4-0. In Game 4, the game would go to triple overtime. And 1 hour, 44 minutes later of actual game time, Uwe Krupp scored with 4 minutes remaining in the third overtime period to give the Avalanche the victory, sweep the Panthers, get their Stanley Cup. 1 year later in 1997 in Major League Baseball, Kevin Brown of the Florida Marlins no-hit the San Francisco Giants 9-0. Brown had no walks in the game, 7 strikeouts, but he did hit one batter in the 8th inning. That's what ruined the chance for a perfect game. Now we move to the 2000 Stanley Cup Finals, which saw the New Jersey Devils defeat the Dallas Stars 4-2 in a 2-1 victory in double overtime in Game 6. Scott Niedermayer scored 5 minutes and 18 seconds into the second period for the Devils. Then Mike Keane scored a minute later for the Stars, making the game 1-1, and it would end up going to overtime. In double overtime, Jason Arnott got the game-winning goal 8 minutes and 20 seconds into it, giving the Devils the victory for the game, giving the Devils the series victory, getting their Stanley Cup. Also in 2000, we had the French Open on the women's final side. Mary Pierce defeated Conchita Martinez 6-2, 7-5 for her second and final career Grand Slam singles title. 1 year later, we stick with the French Open, this time on the men's side. Gustavo Kuerten wins his third French title, defeating Alex Correta 6-7, 7-5, 6-2, 6-0. 5 years later in 2006, we stay with the French Open for the women's final. Justine Henin-Hardenne retained her title, defeating Svetlana Kuznetsova 6-4, 6-4 in straight sets. This would be the third French Open victory and the fifth of 7 overall Grand Slam singles titles for Hardenne. 1 year later in 2007, we moved to the LPGA Championship, which saw Suzanne Pedersen, with a score of 14 under, win her first major title, 1 stroke ahead of Carrie Webb. Also in 2007, we had the French Open final, this time on the men's side, and Rafael Nadal defeated Roger Federer for his third consecutive title, 6-3, 4-6, 6-3, 6-4. This would be Nadal's third major of 19 overall. 3 years later in 2010, and we have some history on the Major League Baseball side. The White Sox shortstop Omar Vizquel became the 4th player to hit a home run in 4 different decades. This would be the first of 2 home runs Vizquel would hit that season, and the home runs he hit that season would be the final 2 of his career. This home run came against the Detroit Tigers off of Max Scherzer in the bottom of the first. With this home run, Vizquel joined players such as Ted Williams, Willie McCovey, and Rickey Henderson to do that feat. Now we go to the 2012 LPGA Championship, which saw Shanshan Fun, with a score of 6 under, win by 2 strokes to capture her only major. Now we move up to the 2017 French Open final on the women's side. Yelena Ostapenko upset Simona Halep 4-6, 6-4, 6-3 in 3 sets. This would be the first and only Grand Slam title for Ostapenko, and she became the first Latvian to win a Grand Slam singles title. Then finally in 2018, at the French Open final on the men's side, who else? Rafael Nadal wins once again, defeating Dominic Thiem 6-4, 6-3, 6-2 in straight sets. This would add to Nadal's record, giving him his 11th French title and his 17th Grand Slam victory of 19 overall. So there you have it. That's what happened on this day in sports history. If I left anything out, let me know down in the comment section. If I mispronounced any names, I do apologize. I hope all of you are staying safe out there. I hope all of you are having some great days. I'll see you tomorrow for Nico Dwyer and the 10th inning.